Greetings, USAFA Cadets. My name is Ron Weber, and I'm a 1980 Air Force Academy graduate, and my wife and I are honored that you are allowing us to tell our son's story. Mark graduated high school in 2007. He lettered in 4 sports: football, basketball, swimming, and track, and was named Athlete of the Year his senior year. At 6'6" and 250 pounds, several universities tried to recruit him for football. To my surprise, he decided to go to USAFA. He liked the idea of service, patriotism, integrity, and being part of something bigger than himself. The competitive nature of the academy can sometimes take a toll on confidence and self-assurance. So when the time came for interested cadets to try out for Air Force Special Forces, Mark determined that he wasn't talented enough to compete for a slot. I remember having that conversation, trying to convince him to follow his dreams, pointing out that it can't hurt to try, and the majority of the assessment has to do with swimming skills, which, as a competitive swimmer, was his strong suit. But to no avail. He didn't try out for a slot. Mark graduated USAFA in 2011 with a degree in economics, became a contract officer, and got stationed at Warner Robins, Georgia. But he was disappointed with himself for not assessing for Special Forces, which led to depression and a somewhat gloomy outlook on life. After a couple of years, something transformative happened and Mark's outlook on life changed. He worked late one evening and everyone had left for the day. In the hallway, as he was leaving, there was a janitor mopping the floor. The janitor had lost both arms up to the elbows, and instead of using his arms to mop, he was hugging the mop with his stubs and moving like he was slow dancing with the mop, mopping and singing, obviously enjoying life despite his disability. Suddenly, it hit Mark like a ton of bricks that he needed an attitude adjustment. Well, it has been said that if you change your mind, you can change your life and the lives of others around you. And that's what happened with Mark. His situation hadn't changed, but his perspective had. And this new attitude changed his life, which had a positive impact on those around him. As far as I know, that janitor never knew the profound impact he had on Mark's life. It goes to show you don't always know the impact your choices have on others, what seeds take root, or how far the ripples reach once the stone of endeavor is cast into the pond of life. Soon thereafter, Mark became motivated to work out again and get back into shape. After several months of intense workouts, Mark inquired about assessing for Special Forces. Because the Air Force had already spent money to train him as a contract officer, his superior said that they would not release him from the career field. To get into Air Force Special Forces, you have to pass Phase 1, then Phase 2, and then you qualify to enter the pipeline. Mark submitted a package for Phase 1, then took leave to attend and passed Phase 2, which generated the following correspondence from headquarters, quote, "Lieutenant Weber nominated for Combat Rescue Officer Training without," and without is in all capital letters, "obtaining career field release. We cannot support release at this time from contracting," end quote. This generated a firestorm of back and forth exchanges between Mark and headquarters. The following was Mark's final email to them, quote, "Pararescue is a unique career field that closely aligns with my strengths, goals, and desires as an individual and a leader, and I know, if given the opportunity, that I will have a profound impact serving our country in this manner," end quote. They released him shortly after that, and he entered the pipeline. During this intense 2 years of training, he gained qualifications in scuba diving, parachuting, advanced survival techniques, technical rope rescue operations, tactics, marksmanship, and combat leadership, to name just a few. Mark received his Maroon Beret in July 2016 and was assigned to the 38th Rescue Squadron at Moody Air Force Base, Georgia. Shortly after arriving, Mark surprisingly got to utilize his contracting skills by renegotiating all the squadron's contracts, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in the process. Mark actually received a commendation medal for the effort. So what is a Combat Rescue Officer, or CROW for short? They are United States Air Force Special Forces. A CROW and several pararescuemen, PJs for short, make up a team, usually 6 or 7 total, and they go into unknown or hostile environments to rescue people. A guardian angel is their patch, and their motto is, "These things we do, that others may live." Putting all these skills and training together, they are ready for a multitude of missions. They are trained to do these missions in any environment, desert, Arctic, mountains, in the ocean, and all while under fire from enemy forces. They possess an impressive array of skills. So who was Mark Weber? Some words come to mind. Laid back, even-tempered, non-confrontational, humble and conscientious. He was kind of the antithesis of what you would consider a Special Forces personality to be. He was a people person and seemed to be in his element with friends. As far as his leadership, those who worked with him and knew him personally are best qualified to describe his style.
We're going to have a room dedication here on the base at Building 400 for Captain Mark Weber. Captain Weber was a combat rescue officer assigned at the 38th Rescue Squadron here at Moody Air Force Base, and he was killed in 2018 while he was deployed to Iraq. So he was still fairly new to the squadron. He had been in the Air Force for about 8 years at that point, had been an academy grad, so that in itself is a pretty impressive achievement to graduate from the Air Force Academy. He was a contracting officer for several years and then made the decision to cross-train and become a combat rescue officer. He had to go through about 2 years of training to do that, and the training is pretty intense and very challenging for most of the people that attempt it. So it's got around I would say probably an 80% attrition rate. So he's one of the select few that was able to make it through the entire training. I would best describe him as a selfless leader. He was definitely someone who looked out and served those that were under him, and he spent his time trying to take care of them. He was also very dedicated to his faith and to his family. That was definitely shown after the crash where he was killed, and his family came here and everyone in the squadron had a chance to meet him. And everybody had that chance to really see how invested he was in both his faith and his family.
Lord bless this room.
I think the important part of the dedication is so that his memory and his legacy remains cemented into this base. He was an impressive young man, and he's somebody that we need to remember. And I would want people to emulate him and his leadership style. I think he was a servant leader. I think he was dedicated to the mission here and to the men that served under him. I think he was also, again, dedicated to his faith and his family. And I think he had achieved what he believed was a lifelong dream, which was to become a combat rescue officer. And at that point, he felt like he didn't have anything left he needed to prove to himself. And he wasn't out of arrogance that he believed that. It was more that he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be, and he was doing exactly what he was called to do. And I think if you were to ask him if he had any regrets about any of his decisions, I don't think he would. I think his influence, again, is more in his style of leadership and how he interacted with everyone around him. And that really came to light after the event, after the crash, and how many people were truly touched by him. And emails I got from people I did not even know across the Air Force that reached out to me to talk about how they knew him and the impact that he had on their life. I know and I've stayed in touch with his parents, and they've had many of the same experiences. And so I think what I've learned from him is that you don't often know the impacts that you're having as you go through your life and your career. And so how do you continue to be the person you need to be and to live the life you need to live in order to have those positive impacts throughout your career? It was truly an honor to be his commander here at the 38th.
It is up to us to continue forward
and ensure the memory of Mark remains embedded in the fabric of our lives. Because if it does, it will make us better and will continue to be a source of encouragement and inspiration for those that come after us.
Good morning. My name is Senior Airman Daniel Steichler. Captain Weber and I went through the Pararescue Indoctrination course, the Pararescue Apprentice course, and served at the 38th Rescue Squadron together. And today, I'd like to tell a story. This story takes place during extended training day. It's a long day at the end of a long week during the indoctrination course, where the cadre pushed the team to its limits in an attempt to weed out the quitters. We were headed back to the pool for the third time that day, and the team was exhausted. But Captain Weber was fired up. He stepped onto the bus and, sensing the low morale, launched into a story about the Spartans at Thermopylae. Now, if you knew Captain Weber, you know what a history buff he was, but at the time I was incredulous. Here I was in my own little circle of pain, and I was hurting. And Captain Weber is detailing the exploits of King Leonidas against the Persians. Your shield protects the man to your left, I remember him saying. Well, all I could think about was the severe cramp in my left leg. Looking back though, Captain Weber never went internal. He was forever focused on the men under his command. In the pool, he would help the last team member across before he surfaced for his own breath. On a ruck, I watched him carry a teammate whose body had quit. When the team screwed up, it was Captain Weber who shouldered the responsibility. I never saw him tired. I never saw him afraid. Not because he didn't feel pain or experience fear, but because he placed his duty before his own personal desires and comforts. To quote one of his favorite books, Gates of Fire, when a warrior fights not for himself, but for his brothers, when his most passionately sought goal is neither glory nor his own life's preservation, but to spend his substance for them, his comrades, not to abandon them, not to prove unworthy of them, then his heart truly has achieved contempt for death. And with that, he transcends himself, and his actions touch the sublime. Captain Weber embodied these values throughout the pipeline, and he carried these ideals with him onto Jolly 5-1, March 15th, 2018. And for that, he will never be forgotten. In closing, I know that heaven is supposed to be a paradise, but I pray that somewhere there are people that still need to be rescued, because that is where Mark will be, where he's always been, at the front of the pack.
An Air Force captain from North Texas was among 7 U.S. service members killed in a helicopter crash in Iraq last week. Mark Weber was just 29 years old. He grew up in the small town of Bartonville, just south of Denton. Matt Howerton reports.
Flags and banners surround the home of Mark Weber's parents in Bartonville, a place where his sacrifice cuts deep. Weber, a captain in the U.S. Air Force, died last week following a helicopter crash in Iraq. The 29-year-old was a combat rescue officer, meaning he would help evacuate servicemen injured or immobile on the front lines. Weber's former coach, John Walsh.
No nonsense. He never cut corners. He never took the easy way. He was trusting.
Says that's the kind of job Weber was built for.
He had a lot of purpose. It wasn't just about the way he attacked our football program wasn't just about football. He attacked life that way.
In 2005, Weber was one of the first students to play for Walsh at Denton-Guyer High. The school was brand new then, and the program went 1-19 before becoming a state championship powerhouse. Walsh says his foundation of success was laid by Weber, who received the school's first D1 football scholarship from the U.S. Air Force.
Now, what we realized real quick was he was the guy, he was the cornerstone that we were going to have to build our program around in the beginning. He was one of the guys that started this thing, and now the kids that were babies are wanting to know, Coach, who was Mark Weber? And it's been fun to tell his story because his story is very telling.
Captain Mark Weber of the U.S. Air Force was lost at age 29 on the border of Iraq and Syria. He was from Bartonsville, Texas, graduate of the Air Force Academy, as were two of his sisters. He leaves behind his parents and four sisters. Captain Weber was 29. As we race to remember tonight.
Of course, there's so much more, but the colors already provided here are enough to paint an accurate picture of who Mark was. So I'll finish with this tribute from the Department of Defense to Mark and his brothers in arms, the crew of Jolly 5-1. On 15 March 2018, 7 elite warriors took flight on Jolly 5-1, an HH-60G Pave Hawk helicopter. As the nighttime enveloped the combat theater of operations, they set out on a combat rescue mission over western Iraq. On this night, tragedy claimed their lives. The unique mission employed by rescue forces of the United States Air Force is to conduct search and rescue missions during both peacetime and combat operations, to seek out and save the lost, the wounded, and the fallen, day or night, in inclement weather, and in the face of hostile forces. At a moment's notice and under any circumstances, they willfully put themselves in harm's way to locate, treat, and recover those in need. Each day of their lives, whether at peace or at war, these 7 warriors practice and apply the craft of rescue. Together, they are credited with saving hundreds of lives. Although their lives ended unexpectedly, their unyielding commitment and selfless sacrifice lives on in those that they saved and with those they loved. They left this world better than they found it. They epitomized the rescue motto, "These things we do, that others may live." These are heroes. Thanks for letting us share this video. My wife and I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors and military careers.